Good morning from Panhandle Outdoors, America's only daily outdoor TV show. Your source for fishing, hunting, and information for folks who enjoy the great outdoors. Now sit back, relax. It's Panhandle Outdoors.
Good morning and welcome to Panhandle Outdoors. I'm Bill Allen sitting in for Winston Chester. We have a couple of great guests this morning. You want to stay tuned for that. But first, let's take a look at the weather. High today is 88. Of course, humidity's getting up. Wind forecast is for southeast at 10 to 15, which means it's going to be blowing about 25. You got around a 24% chance of rain, a little bit cloudy today. Now the good news is we got a high tide at 8:03 this morning and a low at 5:56 this afternoon. The peak time is 9:06 a.m. to 11:06 a.m. It's listed as a high activity day, about an hour after that tide changes. Always a good time. Apalachicola at Bluntstown, it is 9 feet. It's come down. It's been on a high since those storms that we had, and it's on a slow and steady fall through the week. Choctawhatchee at Caryville is at 6.5 feet, and it's kind of holding steady, but it too has been coming down significantly over the past week. So we're going to go ahead and take this break and come back with some special guests. All right, welcome back. I am very pleased to be joined this morning by a good friend of mine, and probably, if not the best captain we got out there, Billy Archer from the Seminole Wind. Hey, Billy.
Hey, good morning, Bill.
And then this guy, we left the door open somehow, and he wandered in, but Greg's here as well. We were actually at dinner last night.
That's absolutely right.
And talking about some things, knowing the show was coming up, and we coerced Billy into coming in this morning. But just tell me real quick, where you are right now, what you're doing.
So, Bill, this is my 50th season as a charter boat captain.
Man.
Yeah.
And you two graduated together, right?
He's just a tad bit older. I graduated 74. I think he graduated 73, didn't you, Greg?
That's correct.
Yeah, they're both significantly older than I am.
Yeah. And,
although we don't look it.
So 50 years, and I got my license since 1974, and hadn't done anything since. It's been a passion of mine, and I still love to do it.
Your boat is a Seminole Wind,
Seminole Wind. It's the Miller Hull #1, built in 1987. I bought it in 1996 and converted it to an overload charter boat, which was a chore in itself. Go through all the Coast Guard hoops and get everything up to speed for the Coast Guard, and it's been a great fishing platform.
That's a beautiful boat.
And the Millers built a fantastic boat. They really do.
They do.
Really do that. So Megan and Mandy, Mike, and Bimbo both are just first-class people.
They are. That is very true. What you're right in the middle of it now, right?
Yeah, it starts
all
Saturday.
heck's broken loose.
Yeah, it's starting Saturday. Goes for 88 days for us to August 28th, and then the private wrecks start Saturday as well. They get 31 days in a row to July 31st, July 31st, not 31 days in a row, and then weekends after that all the way through November. So Friday, Saturday, and Sunday for the private wrecks after July 31st, and then starting in September, and then it's going to be good. It's going to be a big year. A lot of fish caught. Be interested to see how the fish hold up, because there's so much fishing pressure, more boats than I've ever seen in my life, and I've been doing it a long time.
Yeah, I've been doing it a long time. You got a trip coming up with him, don't you?
Yeah, we're going to go out on Father's Day.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
Yeah, and they got to take the whole family out on Father's Day and go out like it's 16th of June.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we were talking about last night, I thought that really public really needs to know. There's some changes,
yes,
as there is every year.
Yes, sir.
Now you can catch this and you can't catch that, and since it's never consistent, everything is, and I don't know if it's based on the science or what. Maybe share with what's different really this year when you get out or snapper fishing the next 88 days. Or grouper fishing, what can't you keep?
So that's a great question, Greg, and I appreciate that. So starting June 1st is basically red snapper. You can keep vermilion snapper, mangrove snapper, and a red grouper and scamp. But red grouper closes on the 1st of July. So that's a very short season. And then I believe that's correct. And then after that, it's scamp and red snapper. Which we love to catch scamp and catch quite a few of them. But it's it's not a guaranteed fish. But when you fish for red snapper, we're using live bait. And you got 10 people, and everybody drops down. They the fish just go crazy. It's to get that live bait past a bunch of red snapper down to the bottom, catch a scamp is really a feat. But I've seen you do it many times.
And that's what you hear that from everybody, and yet, and even the guys I know that still dive that I used to dive with, or their son, but. You just snapper everywhere. You're just covered up.
A lot of so what they look at is the recruitment class, which are the small fish up to what we call the teenagers, the 12 to 20 pound fish, and so when you get a nice recruitment class of fish when they do their sampling, like that's a 2 to 4 pound fish, and that's where they start basing their science on, and they do all kinds of surveys, trawl surveys, rod and reel surveys. They hire guys like me to take them out and fish places, and they'll tag the fish, and so they really work hard. So the biggest change this year, to answer your question, Greg, it happened last year, is they pulled gag grouper out of our red snapper season. Right. And so, which in my opinion was a big mistake, because we catch gag grouper. They're not like a nice trout that Coach Chester has over here. They don't swim back down and out of 200 feet of water. Mm-hmm. They're pretty well done. And so if they could come up with some way with the tag, you could tag that fish, turn the tag in at the end of the day, and so they could keep up with the the numbers you call, and that would be a much better approach in my opinion.
And you've been involved a little bit with a good bit of this,
yes,
right?
I got involved back in 2000 when they started doing all these changes. Bob Zales got me involved to go to a meeting over in Point Clear, Alabama, and it's kind of one of those things. That old cliche, if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. Mm-hmm. That is true. That is very, very true. And so, as a charter fisherman, and I'm a third generation charter fisherman. I'm dual permitted. I can commercial fish and charter fish. So my livelihood's at stake every time they have a meeting. And Greg's absolutely correct. Mm-hmm. It's a moving target. These fishery management regulations are a moving target, and it's all in who wants to move the target.
And it's hard to keep up with, especially for a lot of these recreational guys out there.
It is. It's
a lot of people don't realize too that there is a closed area that's out there that you are not allowed to fish in.
Right.
And weren't we talking one time where you take some of the NOAA people out there and get in that area, and then they also use that data to go, here's where my breeders are, and here's what we caught. Of course, we put them back because we're in a closed area, but how in the world did they come up with such a convoluted formula to say, okay, we know these are in here, we think there's this many in this area, and we don't know when they're going to leach over into the area that people can actually fish in. It's just...
So hold that thought. We got to take a break here to pay the bills, and we'll come right back. That's a great question. All right, welcome back with Captain Billy Archer and Greg Brudnick. Where were we? Finishing that?
We're talking about closed areas, and so the concept of the closed area, Greg, was for it to be like an artesian well where they could, it would just no fishing pressure, right? You just go in there and it would be like
the natural environment
without seeing a hook. Now the mistake they made is they let people troll through there. So you could slow your trolling down.
Down there.
Yeah. So I think they corrected
That's
that.
an expensive way to catch grouper.
And then monitoring it too. You have to have personnel out there, and they'll fly a airplane from Mobile over, or the boats out of Appalachia or Panama City, the FWC. When we did a 3-year research project in there, it's one of the most interesting things I've ever done. I learned that they really take their science serious. These young men and women are biologists and, trying to, get their degree and specialize in certain fish and this, that, and the other. So what they did is they work around the clock. I mean, they're taking the oldest out of the head where it ages them, doing liver samples, gonad samples to see if the fish is diseased, what the age is, and so it was really interesting. One of the most interesting things about gag grouper, all gags are born female. Went up till they're 8 or 9 years old, and then the dominant female changes into a male, which is a weird deal that nature does. So, and that's one of the reasons why the gag population is in such bad shape, because by the time the female turns into a male, she gets caught, and so he doesn't have the opportunity to repopulate, and so during that research thing, they had great big plans about spawning aggregations, and they wanted to catch one, right, so they could film it. Well, they were thinking that we would catch 200 gags a day. 200. It's like, yeah.
Wait a minute.
If we could catch 20, that would be a great day. And some days we did. And so we worked at Swanson's Madison closed area, which was a really, it's a deep water edge. It's a mountain range is actually what it is. And back in the day, guys like Buster McKay and Robert Jensenius and Joe Knowles, they knew that bottom, and they go out there and catch these 300-pound Warsaw grouper.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And that's a 100-year-old fish. Really? That's crazy, isn't it? But anyhow, so then they have what they call the edges down south, about 50 miles further, that they move the closed area during the time of year because of the way the fish aggregate up and down the edge. So they would close the north end, and then the middle end, and then the south end, and and prohibit it from any kind of fishing, and but the bottom line was it didn't improve so much the fishing in around it, but it did make the fishing in the closed area fantastic.
Yeah,
fantastic. So it was interesting, and I was proud to be part of it. And, they've been doing that stuff a long time, and they're still doing it with their own boats. So I mean, they don't hire the charter boats anymore. They got their own private.
I
boats.
think a lot of times we think that they're just, or maybe I do, that there's just some government agency there with a guy sitting there just with an arbitrary, well, let's just make it 2 snapper. But there is a lot of work that goes into it.
I think, and don't quote me on this, but I think in Florida they sold over 100,000, issued over 100,000 saltwater fishing licenses last year. Well, if you think about that, and now, so one of the things that we've been able to do through working with the FWC and the Commission and our Gulf Council members is bring in some kind of accountability, where if you're gonna go fishing out of Florida, you go buy a saltwater fishing license, you have to declare if you're gonna harvest snapper, grouper, any kind of reef fish. And that was a major step in the right direction. It's still not perfect, but it's helping, and they get an idea. So what they use is these surveys, they call them telephone surveys. They have boat intercepts where they meet you at the boat ramp, and they'll ask you questions, and all that's voluntary stuff, But now, if you go fishing, you have to take the survey, and that's like I said, that's a better place than not taking it.
To be honest about it.
Yeah.
But that's what they've done that with. On the hunting side with migratory birds,
right.
Several years,
yes,
where you kind of, they ask you how many dove you kill, what kind of fish what kind of place you were hunting. Was it private? Was it one of the public hunts? And then also with ducks too. I think they do the survey at the end of the year with that.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like seeking feedback from the fishing population.
Yeah, and so the telephone survey is probably the weakest link, because of they might call you a month after you've been fishing. Well, what did you go fishing Saturday, June 1st?
Yeah.
What did you catch? Or I don't know, I don't remember. Or I might maybe tell a story. We caught our limit. Who knows? But
who knows if they're telling the truth? Another thing too, and maybe I don't know if we're close to a break, but why, if we have the Gulf and it touches all these different states, why are the numbers different for what you can keep if you fish out of Alabama or Louisiana as opposed to Florida? If
all fish in the Gulf.
And it's all the same Gulf, and I just...
So, Greg, that gets into a really bad subject about politics, you know. So in Louisiana, their red snapper season is open now. You can keep 4 red snapper in state waters. Well, they're not policing the state waters, right? So these fish that are coming out and big, beautiful catches. I know you saw some pictures recently of some fish that were caught. So, you know, if you don't have any enforcement, and that's where Governor DeSantis and the FWC have shined. You know, they are trying to crack down on the illegal harvest and out of season stuff and cleaning the fish on the boat before you bring them in and that kind of stuff. But so each state has their own commission and they set their rules according to the public input.
Not according to how much tourists fish.
Yeah. So and one of the interesting things about Louisiana is, you know, we all are sharing the same resource, right?
Yeah.
And so they're able to catch these really pretty big snapper. And when our season opens here in Florida, it's projected their season will go about 10 days, 2 weeks further, and then shut down. So all those private wrecks that didn't get to fish will have to do it illegally. It's you know, because we're all under the same quota, right? We get so many fish, but they set the bag limits to what they want to harvest, and so,
how soon you get there.
Yeah. And so with the FWC Commission, you know, that's all public input, and they have a great team of scientists that do all the calculations. And here's an interesting thing that I'd like to share with y'all. You know, used to when snapper, it started in 2000 when they started messing with it, but about 15 years ago, I guess, maybe, they had this red snapper open up on June 1st, and then you could keep gag grouper on July 1st. Mm-hmm. Well, that was like crazy because you're catching these nice gags, have to throw them back. And so anyhow, we went to our biologist who was actually on the Gulf Council, and she was kind enough to sit us down and talk to us a little bit about what we could do to change the season.
So it has evolved. So.
Yeah, it has, and up to last year. So anyway, during that conversation, she told us that if we raise the size limit 2 inches, then we could open it up June 1st with red snapper.
Wow.
Well, that's a no-brainer, 2 inches.
Yeah.
So the fish went from a 22-inch fish to a 24-inch fish, and then you can keep them.
Oh, how you keep up with that. Well, so let's take this break. We'll be right back to say. All right, welcome back. You're going to really love this. I love this. But, I mean, Billy, your grandfather was instrumental in fishing everywhere, I guess.
Well, he loved fishing in the Gulf, especially out of Panama City, and made friends with Don Morrell and folks like that right there that were very, very good fishers. All the Anderson brothers, but back then there weren't any charter boats, so you had to go on a head boat if you wanted to go fishing, and they didn't go like, we go now 30, 40, 50 miles offshore. They go right down to the West Beach and use land ranges and be in 60, 80 foot of water and just kill them, crush them. And normally they went, there'd be 3 boats go. So when he started, they didn't even have CB radios. They waved flags at each other.
Yeah.
With flags. So one of the things that they used was this soap sounding lid. It's that actually belonged to the Anderson brothers. They packed octane soap in the bottom of it, bounce it on the bottom 2 or 3 times, and pull it up, look at it. If it had shell in it, they would start fishing around a little bit. If it had sand in it, they keep going until they found some shell and coral. So these guys
are running the time and distance.
Yeah. I mean, they leave the pass. They probably start fishing. They may be running 5 or 6 knots or whatever, and then an hour and a half they were looking for fish. One of the things that my grandfather, Count Tiny, did was he tied 2 hooks to his sounding lead. So when he bounced on the bottom, if there's any fish, you get a bite. And then they start pulling the fish up with, it's all hand lines, right? Not rod and reel, it's hand lines. And so those old sayings like the real mahogany and all that, because most of those boats were built out of mahogany wood. So their railing was mahogany. They'd be pulling that through.
So speaking of good ideas, tell us about your grandfather.
Well, he saw this electric reel concept. This is a General Electric motor on a spool that for aircraft, and that they could pull the machine gun bullets through. And it's multi-voltage. It has it had a foot and a thumb deal that you could, set the different voltages. The lower the voltage, the slower. The higher, up to 36 volts. From 12 to 36 volts, the quicker it would pull the voltage through. And so he saw that and decided he might be able to do something with that for fishing. And this is what the reel looks like, or the motor looks like now.
Yeah.
The General Electric company, back then during World War II, they didn't cut any corners. It's all machine parts and stainless steel bearings and all that stuff. So. And they last forever. But one of the things that he had to figure out was there's an internal ground in that motor that after a certain amount of time, it's shocked the poo out of you. And so it's a push button switch. If it wasn't grounded right, and you mash the button, it'd be like,
get lit up.
Oh yeah, crazy. And so I got a funny story. I don't know if y'all know Mike Pons, but he used to be
graduated with
the Home Builders Association, and they always took a trip. And so we were on this trip, and one of the new guys that were on the boat was fishing with an electric reel, and it wasn't plugged in right, and it was shocking. So he mashed the button, and he's fishing right next to Mike, and it just lighted him up. And he looked over at Mike and says, "Mike, this thing is shocking the poop out of me." And Pon says, "Oh, shut up, man, they all do that."
That's just how it is.
Yeah, that's funny. But anyway, so yeah, they come a long ways. Not many people use it anymore. I have a few customers in Appalachian watching. Steve Smaby still fishes them, but Mitch Holman still fishes them. But they've gotten very expensive, and now the newer technology is on a big spool where you can count. You make these deep drops in 600 feet of water.
Right.
And that's a big change too, right there, because back in the day you didn't have all the maps and the Seymours and charts and stuff that we have today. So now, if you can afford it, you can, and I'm talking about, they're expensive. Get a Seymour map and put it on your boat, and not ever been out there in your life, find a place, pick it, press a button, and your boat will drive right to it.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're catching tile fish in 600 feet of water. You've never been there in your life. Right. So and then there's also the radar technology that's changed everything. You got to be real careful when you're fishing, because some of these guys are unscrupulous, and they'll watch you and set a target on you, and next thing you know, they got your spot. And
it's always been the case, but now with the electronics,
electronics is taking all the guessing out of it, and it's amazing how accurate this stuff is. I have one of the most updated versions of the marine electronics that you can have for a charter boat. My stuff is built for fishing, and so I play more defense than I do offense, because so I've built over 650 places. Personally built over 650.
Yeah, I know.
And Joe Ed Davis and his family were very helpful in doing that. Would rent me the Mr. Offshore, and we just loaded up with peanut pickers and silos and trucks and cars, and you can't even do what we did back
Right, I was going to say, don't do that now.
No, don't do that now.
You didn't do it with government grant money.
No, I didn't do it with grant money. I did that out of my own pocket. And so,
Exactly.
So anyway, we got a nice network of reefs out, and unfortunately, Hurricane Michael kind of reset the playing field for that, because lost a lot of stuff, about 50% of it, but still, there's stuff that didn't get moved, and stuff that I was able to relocate, so we're able to produce some fish.
Always.
Yeah, we try hard.
Always. So basically, that's the first electric reel.
The first electric reel. And they, instead of Bondo, and that's what this is, a tiny motor, or a Bondo motor. It was just like that right there, the metal. They take electrical tape and tape it up to try to keep it from shocking.
Yeah.
And then they use it till they couldn't use it. Then they just throw it overboard.
58, 50.
Yeah.
Well, Billy, I want to thank you for coming
It's a pleasure.
in. Greg, always a pleasure.
Billy, thank you.
My pleasure, man.
And how do they get in touch with you? Seminole Wind.
Seminole Wind, 850-527-4966. We have a website, SeminoleWindFishing.com. I'm blessed that our business is good, but if you need a trip, want to plan something later on in the summer.
Still got any room, or are you totally?
We're full in June and first part of July. There's some room during the week in July and August. So our snapper season ends on the 28th. We'll have a 3-day break. And then on September 1st, we shift gears to go into our trophy fishing, which are amberjack and grouper.
Yeah.
So that's, you know, if you want to get offshore, all I ask is that it's pretty. I don't like fishing bad weather.
Yeah.
I've gotten soft.
Well, I guarantee you it's a good time and a lot of fish. Anyway, so we got to get out of here. I did it again. I ran over time. Jeff will fix it though. So God bless and have a great day.
Amen.
Thanks for watching America's only daily outdoor TV show, Panhandle Outdoors with Winston Chester, featuring hunting, fishing, and other activities and information to help you enjoy the great outdoors. Join us next time for Panhandle Outdoors.